Okay, we are live.
All right. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. So, this is another episode of What's the Tea? If you don't know, this is our 29th episode. So, we're happy that you found us. We do this every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. We interview staff members and people who have had an impact with us at South Suburban Family Shelter. We're very lucky to have our guest Verlon Johnson today, who is an advisory board member. So thank you so much for being on with us.
Hey, no, thank you. And I just want everybody to know that I do have my tea, so I'm ready for the conversation. So this will be great. Good to be here.
I love it. Very prepared. I've got, I'll be honest, it's coffee.
Well,
I don't
it is
want
what it is.
to fewer trips to the store. So on the next one, I'll be a little bit more on my tea game.
There you go.
So, we're getting to be a couple more seconds here. We'll go ahead and get into the interview. We like to give people a minute or two to click on the notification, pull up the video.
Sounds good.
And so we can go ahead and get started. Probably have a few people in by now. So, Verlon, can you tell us what's going on in your life? Where are you at right now? Are you working from home? What's going on?
Yeah. So I worked for the federal government for about 23 years, and I left there a little over 2 years ago, and went to do healthcare consulting, and was working at home anyway. So the only thing that's really changed for me is I got all these other people in the house with me, and I'm kind of trying to tell them like, I was here first, but for some reason that really didn't work out with them. So I've had to move my space. So I am at home along with three other people. Uh, and it's working out okay though. So it's been good. If nothing else, we've grown closer as a family. We have an older daughter who went off to college for a couple of months, but then had to come back because, of course, the COVID spread. But it is fun to have them around regardless. So it's all good. So definitely at home though.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for a tried and true work from home person, you still have to make some adjustments. So
Exactly,
I
exactly.
guess we're all making adjustments. So I would like to hear a little bit about your story about getting involved with not even just our agency, but your interest in domestic violence in general. So
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about maybe from the beginning?
Yeah, so I will say, although I didn't know it, my interest and my passion for domestic violence began actually when I was much, much younger and within my community. I actually, as a child, saw the impact, the negative impact, particularly of domestic violence on individuals who were very close to me. And I didn't understand it fully, and it was very painful to watch and to understand. But eventually, what I did see was a change, where it was a lot of abuse going on, and then all of a sudden, or it seemed all of a sudden, that shifted. And what I had learned is that the abuser recognized his behavior and got help, and it was remarkable, the change. And so being in close contact with the family, still today, we hear a lot about the cycle of violence and all of that, and to see that that has not happened because the family was able to take care of that, earlier in the process, and to really get help, that the children weren't as impacted by that, as they could have been. And then honestly just continued. Actually, a cousin of mine was actually murdered by one of her boyfriend, and so that was a huge impact for me as well. And actually, I was really kind of scared to date and any of those things because I didn't know, like what would happen given everything that I'd seen. And then on through college as well, being able to help my college roommate kind of get through that, and to help her understand that it's not her fault and things like that. So that's where it kind of started for me. And then over the years, I just really tried to, provide funding or volunteer in different organizations. And I was actually on another board for another issue. And my friend Carol Gazelle, who obviously works for you guys, she's one of the, I think she's assistant director there, and does all the counseling stuff. And we were walking all the time, and she was telling me about this great new job she had. And I got so excited. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, tell me how I can get involved. And so there are times I'll turn to her and say, if I'm doing a lot with this House Suburban Family Shelter, I'll say, yeah, it's because of you. I'm so busy. Whenever I've done this. But most, I'd say 99% of the time, I always say thank you to her, because it was so great to be associated and to be able to help out where I could, in terms of DV issues within the community, and help try to move the needle a little bit more. So I will publicly say thank you to Carol. She's going to really like that, I'm sure. So that's how I really got involved working with South Suburban Family Shelter more directly.
Well, I find it really interesting that you saw both a really positive story
Mhm.
with a positive ending, and then you saw, potentially, probably the worst
Yeah.
end of it as well. So, um, when you were joining the board, or as the advisory board member, what are some of your goals or the things that you're aiming at?
Yeah. So, okay. So I actually joined the board probably, oh my, I think it's been 10, 12, 15 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while, but my first goal was to really, at that time, really help others who were experiencing DV to be a, be a vessel, and to be someone that they could kind of talk to. I knew what the issues were, but honestly didn't know what the resources were. I'd recently moved back to the Chicago area, so wasn't very familiar with what was going on related to that. So I thought it was a good way for me to be better educated and to kind of be a spokesperson for an organization. And then just really wanted to see where I could use my talents to help the organization. Because as you know, I mean, we work at our jobs and we do all these great things for our jobs for pay, right? And that's great. But there are other organizations that I knew that could potentially use the skill sets that I had. So whether that was an understanding healthcare because of because of my background, whether that was using my creativity, whether that was using my networks, I just really wanted to make sure that that I was being used in the right way to really help the organization. And it's just really been a rewarding experience for me. 15 years later, just really been great that I've been associated with the South Suburban Family Shelter for so long.
Yeah, and there's only so many counselors. There's only so many,
Yeah.
jobs where you're working directly with people affected by domestic violence. So that's what I liked about our prior conversation, as I saw all these different ways of helping people, because,
Yeah.
you know, before people make those phone calls to South Suburban Family Shelter, there's so much that's going on, and all these individuals doing different things in the world are a big part of helping people as well. So and I kind of know the story a little bit, but
Yeah.
I mean, one way that you've helped was through your healthcare
Yeah.
profession. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, okay. So I cannot tell you that story without telling a little bit about one of the founders of South Suburban Fellowship, Diane Kessler, who we all know and love and we truly miss. But I remember one day I was, running around, I had meetings, I was doing all kinds of other things, and still trying to, do what I could at that time, I may have been the board president. Or no, I don't know but whatever it was, I was really busy. And she said, Verlon, your goal in life is to figure out how you're going to blend your volunteer work with your career to make it all easier for everybody, right? And so I remember looking at her and saying, you really are a wise, a wise woman. How can we do that? And so I just look for little opportunities to do that. One, of course, is that I actually had a situation at work where, was one of my employees who was experiencing DV situation at home. And so I was able to immediately point her to resources and kind of talk her through it, and help her to understand things weren't her fault, and to kind of do that. But the biggest impact for me came with who's now the president-elect Joe Biden, who is a huge supporter of the victims of domestic violence. He supported the Violence Against Women Act back in 1994, but had really been involved in these issues for even much longer than that. So he continued that as the vice president. And so when the Affordable Care Act came aboard, he was a big proponent of how do we make sure that victims of domestic violence were protected, right? So he made sure there was no longer discrimination against victims of domestic violence. They couldn't deny coverage for victims of DV, and they also allowed them to get their own insurance because, to do so otherwise
Okay, I may have lost connection. I'm trying to check. So everyone hang in there with us.
did I lose you guys?
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I hear you now.
Okay.
I caught I caught most of that. I'm not sure. We're still live on Facebook,
Okay,
so
okay, good. So yeah, I was just talking about the way that the Affordable Care Act was able to really support victims of domestic violence and making sure they weren't discriminated against and getting insurance, making sure they could get their own insurance, and then also not having to pay some of the individual tax penalties that they had when they were around. And so I'm just really excited to see what he's going to do as the president elect. But again, within my job, I was able to connect with a lot of the different networks because I had been the president of the board. I was able to use that connection and figure out how could we pull in South Suburban Family Shelter to be either participate or to somehow be connected to these larger groups. And I was able to be a spokesperson in many ways to organizations because I was able to do that. So I just loved, the fact that, and I remember calling Diane and said, I did it. Like I really, really did it. And she was just so proud that she's like, first of all, you're good, you listen to me because I'm always right, but then also too, the fact that I was able to really tie those together. So that was probably one of the neatest experiences that I had related to my passion for this field, but also my passion for healthcare in general in my job.
wow, that is amazing. I mean, really, truly going, from the beginning to the highest level of policy making and how it affects just so many people on the national level. And I am excited and curious as well to see what will come out of the new administration. I have seen some messages come out on social media, but of course it's not January yet, so time will look forward to some good things, hopefully.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that is that's quite something to say to someone that your goal is to bridge these two gaps, which I think maybe that's something for people who are listening to think about because it's never just this clear path, right? You have
right.
to kind of wait for your opportunity and keep your eyes open
Yeah.
for
And
that to come.
Yeah, and that could be in any form, right? So even from a religious standpoint, right? Religion is probably one of the areas that we see a lot of different challenges, unfortunately, where, people will say, oh, it's all about submission, or oh, it's not that bad, and so there's a misunderstanding that could be there, right? And so I'm actually a co-founder and a team lead for our church's I Serve Women's Ministry. So I'm really heavily focused on women's issues from that regard too. And so, where there's opportunities to help educate, right? Whether it's a member coming or others just kind of asking questions about it, then I really feel like I'm able to speak from an area of knowledge in terms of resources, but also as a Christian woman to really come at it from that perspective and really talk about honestly, what Jesus really wants us, how Jesus wants us to behave, how it's sometimes you're going to have to leave that abuser, right? And that's how you're going to have to do it. And it's not about staying because God said told you to do that, right? It's about making sure that you're safe and that you're loved in the way that you should be loved, because that's to me what Jesus really means. So, and I think you can look at that from all different other religions too, from that perspective. And I've got to give a shout out to Glenn Undella Elvery and Bobby Lawson, who are two, they're three significant church leaders in our community, and they were very instrumental in basically making sure they were able to move the needle within their own congregations related to that. So I think that that's a good way that people can look at it. And then also too, just picking up the resources, right? Like, being able to walk into to South Suburban Family Shelter and say, "Hey, what can I do?" Right? It's just so easy to pull things, the posters out and put them out, or to grab the lipstick holders and pass them on, or just listen to your friends. And it's not about judging. It's just a matter of listening and saying, "Hey, if this is a situation, you should go talk to someone." And then the counselors there are very, very good and can really help them to kind of understand the situation they're in more. So to me, it's like, yeah, waiting for that opportunity. So one, being knowledgeable about what's happening, right? But at the same time, being really listening, because we could miss those kind of opportunities as well.
Yeah, and you said it yourself. Safety is that number one priority. It's never to change anyone's mind or to tell anyone what to do from our perspective. So I really like how you weave those two together. I am a little curious. Have you noticed people are more accepting in the church community from when you had started, or have you have you always been able to bridge that gap pretty well?
So I don't know. It's because I've been around for so long in this community. I feel like people are more accepting, and I think it's also about the time that we're in. So if I think about back in the time where my parents were, I think it was a different perspective, right? But you're hearing more about it, and when you have someone like, some of these politicians and leaders in different parts of the religious organizations speaking up, I think that you see more of that. You see more people have an understanding and willingness to learn about it, and realize, wait a minute, so maybe the way I was thinking wasn't necessarily the best way. Safety is more important. Resources are important. Organizations like South Suburban Family Shelter didn't just come up because they had nothing better to do, right? It was really to really meet a need in the community. So I think that you do see that more. And then you've got the internet, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram and other places like that, other social media platforms where people are getting that information a lot quicker. So I do feel like people are more open to the idea about what it's about. And when you think about COVID, of course, and the fact we're at home, and I know it's the incidence rates have increased just because of that alone, that I'm hoping that I'm seeing a lot of people kind of post different things about if you're not safe. And these are people that aren't necessarily tied to an organization, but they understand the issue. So I think that you should get a little bit more understanding around that in the community, which is a good thing. Because our goals act is to make sure that none of us ever speak about this again, right? Like this is like never a thing. So that's when we know that we've reached what we had to do. When I'm sorry, Zach, when you're out of a job, that is when we can say success. Otherwise, we got to continue to push that need on and continue educating people and taking advantage of those opportunities to be able to help people where we can.
Yeah, that's funny. I once had a student say say something along those lines, like, and I basically told him, well, if I'm out of a job, then I'll be happy, I guess, because when there's no more work to do, that'll be a
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's the way we have to look at for everything, right? Hey, that makes a lot of sense.
but I agree. I see a lot of positive trends, and one of the main reasons why I asked that question is because it seems like with our 40-hour training and for just
Yeah.
general requests, we've built a lot of great relationships with some of the local churches around. So I see a lot of good coming out of that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you were partaking in that as well.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's great.
And I want to encourage everyone as we're getting closer and closer to the question parts. If you have any questions for us, myself or Verlon, to go ahead and get those questions in. Um, was there anything else that you wanted to cover so far
Yeah.
that we haven't?
So the other thing is that, and I see this because I do a lot of work around, helping people get registered for voting and other different things where I'm really focused on the youth. And I just want to say, like any youth out there, like you can make a difference too, right? And I know there's a great program that you all have at South Suburban Family Shelter that focuses on education for children young as well as older and teens. But I think that the more that we can get that group in grace or in more involved and have a great understanding of it, then that will be helpful too, because they are our next generation. So everything we're doing today, they can really help carry that. I know my daughter is very much involved. She really tries to, educate as many people as possible about this issue. I had a great opportunity to work with some of the volunteers that before COVID, we were meeting more so, more frequently, right? There were a lot of folks from the high schools and other areas. So I think we can do more of that with the youth. I think that also creates a huge opportunity for us as well. So always want to push the youth folks out there because they really are, this is their world and they're going to be here far, far longer than the rest of us. So it'd be really great if they had a safer world to live into as well when it comes to domestic violence.
Agreed. Yeah. And these patterns, we like to say it in our classroom presentations that the patterns start very early.
Yeah,
It's not just an adult problem or just when you graduate high school. The problems don't just start then magically. So um,
exactly.
completely agree with that. And even just being at home, um, you know, there's still a lot you can do, and a lot of this stuff happens. A lot of abuse between teens happens through technology, so that's something we've
Yeah.
been talking about a little bit. And
Yeah. Yeah.
with the second COVID wave, we're going to be looking at probably a year locked inside. So, yeah, as you were saying, these outreach uh, through social media and through the internet is just so important. Now that we're going to be looking at probably a year or so in this situation.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And yeah, let's hope. I'm hoping for a miracle, right? And our things are good, but I was worried about Thanksgiving, right? And all the activity that you may have been hearing about. So hopefully we'll be a lot safer and can get through this for sure.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to Angie and see what our friends on Facebook
Okay.
are up to.
Okay, so Mrs. Verlon. Okay, so what's your advice for folks trying to blend their professional world with their philanthropy? And how can they be smart and follow Diane Kessler's advice?
So one is what Zach and I said, which is watch for those opportunities for sure. Whether it is helping out a coworker more directly, if you're seeing different patterns that might be there, what kind of word can you give them? What kind of pamphlet or information can you share with them? So I would think that's the first thing because the most powerful thing you can do is help that person that needs that immediate help quicker, right? So that's important. And then also every year, every organization wants to help an organization, right? Whether it's through a formal chain or otherwise. And so there's nothing wrong with going to HR or to your boss and saying, hey, I've been involved in this organization. Is there anything that we can do from our company to help out? You'd be surprised. I mean, in some cases, I've seen people be able to say, we're about to undergo a new computer system. Here, do they need laptops? Or, hey, we are looking for a day for all of us to kind of help out. Is there something we can do? Can we stuff envelopes for you that organization? So unless you ask, then you won't know. Not everyone's going to have an opportunity like I did to where there's a policy situation, right? But there's always something you can do, and those things that may seem small to you will have a huge impact on other people. So I say, one, listen to the how you can help people directly, and then secondly, ask. Say, hey, what can I do? The only thing I could tell you is nothing, and that's cool, right? Because you know what, you'll figure it out. It'll happen eventually. So good luck to you, and I'm so glad you're thinking about that. That's awesome.
And I would just like to second before we ask for another question. I just want to even repeat basically what you said because I thought it was so important that if you help one person, I mean, that's impact right there. It doesn't need to be these great numbers because one
Yeah,
helping one person it's their entire life, as you're saying.
exactly. 100%. Exactly.
Okay, Angie, do we have any more questions?
No, that is all the questions we have.
Okay. I do want to remind everyone that today it's December 1st and it's the national or maybe international even Giving Tuesday. So basically, just wanted to remind you it's an kind of an online campaign for nonprofits to get together and just encourage if you would like to do so to donate to causes that you care about. So just wanted to let everyone know that you can check our Facebook, has a link for it, as well as our, you can always check our website as well. And Verlon, was there anything else that we talked about so much and covered tons
Yeah.
of ground?
I was gonna say Giving Tuesday, it's here. I mean, hey, I'm a regular contributor, but I'm still gonna give today too. So if there's any way you can help out on that one. But just, again, Zach, really want to say thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk about this issue that I'm very, very, very passionate about. And however I continue to help, Jennifer, hey, wherever you still need me, I'm here. So I just want to make sure that that you all know that I truly support this organization, and I feel so valued that it's just such a great thing to have you guys here. So we really appreciate you and what you've done in the community as a whole. It's been awesome.
Well,
Hi, so guess what? Our friends have another question.
Okay, all right.
So, yep, you almost got out of here. So, one last thing. Ms. Verlon, let's see, do you have any favorite memories from working with South Suburban Family Shelters? Any favorite?
Oh my, there are so many amazing memories that I have. All of course, the galas that we've had have been a lot of fun. I'm trying to think. Probably a really fun memory is we were all, for a long time as board members, we would meet in the regular offices, right? And I remember one day someone said, I don't even know what the other stuff looks like, the other buildings, the council buildings and all other things, what they look like. And so they had a great idea of rotating where we had our meetings so that we could do that. And so what happened is that you really got to talk to the counselors when you're in a counseling center. You really got to talk to some of the victims in some of the housing stuff. So it was just a great opportunity to get even more involved in a more special way. So I just love that, where it's like, hey, how can we help our board members, really understand even more so the impact that they're making as board members because of the decisions that's happening and the donations they're able to get and things like that. So I think that was probably the greatest aha moment of like, that makes sense. Why aren't we doing that? So I really like that part of it. And all the dancing though. I mean, I'm really good at the galas. So that was the other cool thing too. So,
I like that question.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Okay.
I promise that was all now.
Okay, no problem. This is fun. Again, I really appreciate it. I'm having lovely tea. It's lavender tea because it's purple, just like everything else I have on today. So thank you so much again for inviting me. This is really awesome. I really appreciate you both.
Of course, thank you very much for coming on. It's really great to hear. Just so many people at home, I'm sure, they've got jobs and things going on, but they want to help. So it's always great to get some more stories and see how someone else did it. So thank you for that and for being a guest on here as well. So
Thank you.
of course. And thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to leave us a comment and share this video and give us a like. We'll be back next week. So same place, same time, different tea. There we go.
Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.